And then the funds, the way that the funds were broken down, remember in our initiative discussion, the funds were broken down across the emergency care room, the treatment, and the research of medical marijuana. So in this bill, instead of breaking it down all those different ways, it just throws it all into one giant slush fund, with the exception of penalty fees. And the penalty fees, so if you violate some precept of this law, should it be passed and enacted, then your fee would then go to the general fund. And so to the extent that someone was violating the law, their monies would be subject to the general fund. The rest of that slush fund money goes specifically to the Medical Marijuana Enforcement Commission and cannot be touched by the general fund. It's simply there for the executive director and the commission to figure out how to spend it. Presumably any dollars left over after the cost of regulation. So that's the first bill. If our assembly member obviously is a sponsor of this bill, but if you've got friends across the state, it is absolutely crucial that we get moderate Democrats on board with this piece of legislation. So now is the time to start reaching out and letting your friends, Tommy for instance, and Contra Costa, let people know that this is, a serious issue, and one way to guarantee access for everyone across the state is to ensure that this law gets adopted and enacted and passed. So that's that. The second bill is Assembly Bill 2465, introduced by a Democrat, Mr. Campos from San Jose. And this bill would require that all medical marijuana patients obtain a state ID card and also register the address they are cultivating marijuana at. Right? Tell us why you're just freaking out. Explain to us. You know it. I know you know it.
What I don't understand, if the state allows you to go and they want to make you spend $50 to $100 for a state card, and then they say that you can't go to your collective because we're closing your collective down and there's going to be a seize or forfeiture law, so you can't go to Walgreens. You don't want to go to Hippie Hill. You don't know if there's mold, mildew, what they're growing it with, what they're spraying it with, what dog or cat hair came down in the back of the car or the bus on the way down. And that's the reality of it. We need safe access to quality, tested, good medicine. So when we go in there and have a headache, we know what to get. If we're nauseous, we know what to get. If our back's spazzing out, we know what to get. If we need a cookie or a tincture or a cup of tea that day, we should be able to get whatever it is, because sometimes a baked good works better for me. So we need access to it, and
that's all valid, but what this bill is saying is that every medical marijuana patient is required to get a state ID card and tell us where you're cultivating medicine.
Yeah, but we don't grow though. We don't grow.
That's the most
So we don't grow. So do we have to tell them we don't grow?
You don't grow.
We have to tell them who our caregiver is?
But the underlying point here is this is unconstitutional, right? I mean, the foundation of Prop 215 says if you have an oral or written recommendation, you are not subject to arrest. So while I appreciate Mr. Campos's excellent effort here, I would suggest Mr. Campos look at Mr. Amiano's legislation and perhaps consider supporting mandatory registration that way. So let your folks and friends, in other places know this is a bill that we should start calling on our state and our state representatives on to oppose. This is very bad news, and should it be passed or should it be adopted, clearly the medical cannabis community, and I'm assuming ASA would be first and foremost challenging that in court. Finally, the last and final medical marijuana bill, and please understand there are a lot of other marijuana germane bills introduced in legislation, but these are just the medical marijuana specific bills. So the final bill up is Assembly Bill 2365. It's being introduced by a Republican from Palm Desert. You can already tell this is going to be good. By Assemblyman Nestande. This bill would amend the family code, hello parents, to require that family courts consider a parent's documented use of a prescribed controlled substance, including medical marijuana, and narcotic maintenance medications in all child custody proceedings. Consider their use. So this would mean your use of any Schedule II narcotic, medical marijuana, maintenance therapy like methadone. Obviously not good news, as I'm guessing he's not wanting this issue raised in a good sense. I mean, maybe a judge would think of this in a good sense, but I have a feeling it largely depends on where your child custody case comes up at. So, again, I think this is a pretty bad bill, one that we will probably seek to oppose. If you have friends in Palm Desert, I highly recommend that they call, visit, fax, email, slam Mr. Nistonde's office. So with that, I will open up just right now quick questions on any of these legislative proposals only. Tommy.
Yeah, the first one, does that have any wording that says that all counties have to?
It does. It has the same wording as the initiative that requires, where it says that every county has to provide safe access, or city and county has to provide safe access unless you have fewer than 50,000 people. At which point it mandates that you have some sort of public hearing to see if there's an overwhelming demand for safe access. Otherwise, if there's not an overwhelming demand, then that small, tiny town can sort of forfeit their access requirements. Right. But it does mandate at least one facility per 50,000 residents. So it mandates more than a single safe access facility in larger cities. Any other questions about the legislation? Yay! All right. You want a break here? Move on.
Take a break.
We can move. Go for it. David, are you ready?
Yeah, we can take a break for 10 minutes and then we'll come back and have our guest speakers. Does that sound good for people? If you didn't get a chance to donate to our donation jar to help support what we're doing, we'll pass it around if anyone needs to make a donation. Thank you for your support. And I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers tonight. We have Julianna Chiarello from Andy Dolores. Please give her a big round of applause. And Gabe Greenstein from CAPSKI, California Association for the Safe Production of Cannabis Extracts. Did I get that right?
Close enough.
And is Colleen also going to be part of the conversation tonight?
I just did, I just handed out.
She provided us with some fantastic lab data and literature.
She gave us some good talking points.
Yeah, we're going to share it with you, and she's welcome to chime in anytime she feels.
So please give them a big round of applause and welcome tonight. You'll have a chance to get your questions answered after they present.
We'll just direct all the hard questions to Colleen.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's what I do.
Well, we're really happy to be here. Thank you so much for coming by tonight. And I have to say, I'm really inspired every time I come to these meetings. It's really great to talk directly with patients. I always, you know, we're so busy that sometimes we don't get the chance. We work with the dispensaries directly, and the dispensaries are providing these products to patients. And so we don't always get that chance to talk directly with you folks. And I love it. I love hearing stories about the different medicinal factors involved in this room alone with cannabis. How many different symptoms are being addressed, different conditions, mental, physical, emotional. I mean, there's just such an array, and cannabis is like an onion. You peel away a layer, and then there's another layer and another layer, and there's so much happening right now with the research. It's fascinating. One of the things that's been really great with us is having our products tested, having our extracts tested, having our flowers tested, and knowing exactly what is in our products, what we're providing. And you know, to take it a step further, finding different cannabinoids in our products that we didn't even know were there. I mean, we're making these extracts and we're getting them tested and we're finding out what the THC content is, but we're also finding out the THCV content, for instance. THCV, not sure if you guys have heard much about it, but it's an amazing component in not all strains, but the ones that are high in THCV are really, really fantastic for epilepsy, Parkinson's, diabetes, and it's actually been tested on Parkinson's mice that were not only given curative, or not only given palliative relief, meaning that their symptoms were lessened, but it actually helps to stop the nerve degeneration. So cannabis is curative. This is a curative thing, okay? And you know, I'm sure you've read other studies or heard about cannabis actually being curative for cancer cells and tumors. I mean, we're just kind of scratching the surface. There's so much to know. And so being involved on the edible production side of things and being able to really quantify what our products have in terms of the cannabinoid content and everything is huge. And so that's one of the things that we kind of wanted to focus on tonight. Another thing that Gabe's going to be speaking about is CAPSCI, which is the California Association for the Production of Safe Cannabis Extracts and Edibles. And he'll tell you a little bit more about that. But it's really great to be involved in an organization like that because recently, as you may or may not know, San Francisco